Okay.
This is Talking Foreign Policy, a critical look on Canada's role abroad, and I'm Yves Engler. Today, there's a major development in Palestine solidarity activism in Canada. After a massive grassroots organizing, BC post-secondary education minister Selina Robinson was forced out of cabinet. It follows on the heels of Robinson calling Palestine before European colonization, quote, crappy, and Robinson intervening at Vancouver College to have a professor fired because of her statement in support of Palestinians. To my knowledge, this is the first time in Canadian history that a minister has been forced out because of anti-Palestinian racism. To discuss these developments, I'm happy to talk with Sean Orr, who is a post-secondary student, ran for Vancouver City Council on a socialist ticket, and is the source of the video where the minister made her racist remarks that went viral and contributed to her downfall. Thanks a lot for coming on to Talking Foreign Policy, Sean. And I guess my first question is just tell us what Robinson told the B'nai B'rith Forum that sort of unleashed much of this brouhaha.
Yeah, of course. I think it's important to note in this case that Robinson was acting in an official capacity as minister. Was not a private citizen in a Zoom call that that there was some sort of gotcha. This was her in her official capacity. So I think that's important to note. Secondly, there were many remarks that kind of cut across a lot of intersecting groups that were very concerning. And keep in mind that this isn't this is a pattern that we've been seeing from the minister for months now, and we've been monitoring it. We've been keeping track of some of her comments, her likes, her retweets. So this isn't just some slip. This is a pattern. This is something that as a minister, I think all British Columbians and all Canadians should be concerned about. So what the actual comments were first, she said that the reason essentially the Gaza conflict has garnered so much grassroots support among young people in particular, and she named 20 to 34-year-olds, is that they either don't know about the Holocaust or don't think that it happened. She then said they don't know that the area was a crappy piece of land with nothing on it. Oh, maybe there's a few 100,000 people, but they didn't have an economy to speak of. So, I mean, it's a short segment, but I mean, she managed to, I think, offend multiple groups, students. I mean, all I think any Aboriginal, Indigenous Canadian should be concerned. She's using the doctrine of discovery, terra nullius, that kind of rationale, all the rationale of all sort of colonizers, and then of course just historical revisionism, and to suggest and that Gaza or Palestine or West Bank was a crappy piece of land with no economy. First, it's not true. I mean, there's olive trees that are older than thousands of years. They had a booming fig and fruit economy, but it's obviously beyond that, and it's just it's just insulting to so many people, I think, um, to suggest that, and rightly so. Groups like you said, like you mentioned, it was a massive grassroots effort. Um, came together as a community and demanded this action.
And we should also note this comes multiple days, a few days after the International Court of Justice said there was a plausible genocide. So her
Mm-hmm.
comments are all basically in the context, of course, of more than 11,000 Palestinian children having been killed over the past 4 months. It's all about not just some historical. Let's have some debate about historical fact, but it's about justifying what's going on today, which is anybody who bothers to look knows it's absolutely horrific. But so there's also simultaneously when she makes these racist comments, there's also this intervention at Vancouver College that she engages in again, in her position as post-secondary education minister. Can you tell us a bit about what Robinson did at Langara College to get a professor fired?
Yeah, absolutely. So the professor in question is Dr. Natalie Knight, and there was an internal investigation done by the institution where they found, after I think it was a 3 month period, that she actually hadn't. She didn't break any of their codes of conduct and was reinstated. This is coming from remarks that she made at a rally um, as a civilian, sort of mentioning the that Palestine has a right to defend themselves. Um, as a result of the decision, former minister Robinson said that she was disappointed, that they still have a public post and a platform to spew hatred and vitriol. And she then said, I have met with Langara College to express my concerns for the Langara and broader communities, and that they agree everyone deserves to feel safe. Less than 24 hours after this tweet, Natalie Knight was then removed from Langara College. So they have of course, the party has denied this. They said the allegations are flimsy, that there's no basis. Um, in terms of, like, I don't know, are they did she go to the college and demand? I mean, we all know the power of social media. We all know the power that a ministerial position holds. That tweet is a call to action, and action was done. So for them to say that the allegations are flimsy is kind of ridiculous. And Yeah, of course, the Canadian Association of University Teachers called for her resignation. It was within this context then that she went on to the Zoom call as well to defend her actions. And that's when I was alerted to the existence of this video, and then clipped it. What I thought was the most egregious part, but I mean, there are. It's a long video. I think it's still available on the B'nai B'rith YouTube account. There's multiple things in there that should be very concerning, and it talks about rewriting legislation, our curriculum. Sorry, it talks about working with the police in terms of criminalizing uh, pro-Palestine demonstrations as anti-Semitic. It talks about the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. So I mean, there's a lot of things. There's another thing in there where she mentioned that the dispute is an indigenous dispute, a dispute between two indigenous tribes, and that if in British Columbia, if there was a dispute of land between the Tsleil-Waututh and the Squamish, would us regular people intervene? Um, uh, so I mean, not only is she insinuating that Indigenous people aren't regular, she's also insinuating that we haven't, at every single turn, intervened in the affairs of Indigenous Canadians. So, there's probably more in there, but I mean, those were definitely some of the most egregious things.
Yeah, and one thing that's in there that I haven't seen mentioned really is that Trudeau's special envoy to combat anti-Semitism, Deborah Lyons, speaks about
Mm,
2 minutes after Robinson makes this, what now everyone is agreeing, including B'nai B'rith, was this, horribly anti-Palestinian racist remark. And
mm,
Deborah Lyons, who's, both, he's a special envoy, budget from the federal government. She's
mm,
supposed to be, combating hate and whatever. She doesn't remark on what Robinson says. In fact, she goes out of her way to talk about, in her words, how wonderful Robinson is and how much she works with Robinson in pushing post-secondary education institutions into clamping down. I mean, she says clamping on anti-Semitism, but what she really means is criticism of Israel. So there's a whole angle there where I think that Deborah Lyons needs to be a bit of pressure needs to be put on her to denounce these remarks and explain why she didn't respond, et cetera, et cetera. But as you mentioned, you clipped this piece. This more than 2 million people watched it
mm,
on just on X on Twitter. Uh,
mm,
Other versions is hundreds and hundreds of thousands everywhere. So this is clearly was important in
mm.
Robinson's downfall as a minister. Obviously, this type of social media kind of activism can be increasingly influential. But tell us a little bit about so the activism. And there was a protest today. There was something
Mm,
canceled yesterday. So there's been
mhm,
quite a few pieces. You mentioned the professors that have come out
mhm,
that led to this grassroots. And also, I should say, there's a establishment columnist or commentator on Global News, I believe, talking about how this is sort of unique because there's no opposition politicians that really got engaged in this. Usually, when a minister falls, it's because the opposition political parties are calling for the minister to go.
mhm.
In this case, the right-wing opposition basically just stayed silent, and if anything, actually backed Robinson. But this was all sort of a grassroots kind of left-wing mobilization. Just give us a bit about what's transpired in recent days.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really important point to make is that how much the community came together and how diverse the community was. And indeed, even when talking about her in her apology, I'll take Islamophobia training, and it's like it's not that's conflating the entire region to one religion. That's also kind of missing the point. There's Palestinian Christians, there's Palestinian Jews, there's Jewish people that are against the occupation and against apartheid as well. I mean, it was just in her apologies. I think also might have fired up a lot of people as well. But yeah, absolutely, the work that was done on the ground, organizing. I'm glad that the tweet went viral. But I mean, yeah, it's been a lot of work before that and a lot of work since that to organize people. And I'm just I'm absolutely blown away. Like you said in the beginning, when we were talking, there's not often times that we can take a win. And we should take this win. We should take this as a victory, a partial victory for sure. We think that her still being an MLA is that the BC NDP is saying we're okay with racism. We're okay with these kind of remarks. Um, we also want, and there still could be an opportunity for this, but there are many more demands that the group has. I'm not the spokesperson for the group. I want to make that clear, but I am involved with some organizing within the group. But we do have some demands, and one of them is yes, to remove Robinson from the caucus entirely. Another is to scrap policies that are designed to suppress Palestinian solidarity and organizing and demonstrations, and that really kind of goes back to the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. A third one is to adopt the ACLA report on anti-Palestinian racism, and to go about also designing a curriculum around the Nakba and educating people around the real history of Palestine and the ongoing continual dispossession and genocide that is taking place. And then another one is to start an independent investigation into what you mentioned earlier was to the minister's interference in the Langara dispute. So while yes, it's awesome that she's no longer the post-secondary minister for education in BC, we still think that there's room for the NDP to grow. And then, like I said, this is supposed to be our progressive government. This is supposed to be a left-wing government, and they've shown themselves to be moving more and more to the right, probably to court voters. Even in the press conference announcing the resignation of Minister Robinson, David Eby took a chance to say that the protesters were the people that want to sow divide. It's weird that we're still the bad folks. Instead of thanking us and essentially thanking us, for bringing this to light. We are still demonized, and like you mentioned, the protests today, they had a retreat in Surrey, British Columbia, and activists came with curriculum, with Palestinian curriculum to educate the minister, and were met with security forces. They weren't to be seen. They weren't to meet with any ministers. And that's still doubling down on the racism. Like, why would you not meet with members of the community and welcome them and say, well, thanks for this opportunity to educate us, and let's all move forward and heal together. That's real work. That's real accountability. And that's something that's missing from this conversation, I think. um, you know uh, Retiring from the cabinet is one thing, but there's so much work for everyone, for myself included. I'm constantly learning, as a white man, what we've done, and how to be better, and how to be a better ally, right? So it should be an opportunity to grow together, not an opportunity to divide, even though his rhetoric was that we were the ones sowing division. So
Well, nonetheless, well, it's obviously not a complete victory when we look at how deeply complicit Canada is in enabling dispossession of Palestinians for
yeah.
more than a century. It's unlikely to get any sort of complete victory overnight, but I think it is a substantive contribution to what we hope is the long march to less Canadian complicity in Palestinian dispossession and colonialism more generally.
Mhm.
Thanks a lot for coming on to Talking Foreign Policy.
Thanks so much, and again, and thanks for all of the work that you do. I'm a big fan. I follow you, and yeah, it's a real honor to be interviewed by you. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Sean.